Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary versus the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
Okay. No, nothing.
That's my normal voice.
No.
Dennis Ling.
It is definitely not. Oh, God. I don't think we would have gone on a second date if your voice was that.
Come on.
I don't know. Maybe it would grow on me. I take it back. No. I'm going back to the original view. Never mind. Anyway, so last week we watched a very depressing movie.
Depressing. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. Thank you very much.
I don't think I keep that up. So
Thank
you're in
God.
luck.
Oh my God. So, yeah, last week we watched a very depressing movie the day after. So I thought as a remedy, we would watch
An equally instructive film.
This strives for the same level of realistic premise and outcome.
Reagan was equally influenced by this film.
Well, that I believe, absolutely. Because the movie we're going to watch tonight is Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
Now, I know it seems crazy that I've never seen Red Dawn.
Do you know the battle cry?
Wolverines!
Thank you.
Look, here's the thing. I'm not that much of a dope about pop culture. Like, I know at least that much.
You can't miss the Wolverines.
I understand what the premise of this movie is. There is a secret invasion of... I don't even know if it's a secret invasion, but there's an invasion of the United States by the Soviet Union. Somehow, a ragtag group of teenagers from, I think, a military academy fight them off.
And you keep saying Colorado. I don't know where you get Colorado
I don't know where
from.
I got Colorado from. I have no idea why I thought Colorado.
Like, the only time I think of Colorado is War Games.
Yes.
With NORAD.
Right. Maybe that's the only reason why I thought about Colorado. I have no idea. I just, for some reason, my mind, I picture that they're in the mountains. And so they're fighting a guerrilla war against the Russians.
Ah.
I like, that's kind of what I'm picturing is somehow they get into a guerrilla war in the mountains, and I think I'm just thinking about Afghanistan, actually.
Maybe you're thinking of, where do Wolverines live?
Well, that's true. Where do Wolverines live? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Like, there are no teams called the Wolverines around here that I'm aware of.
I know of marmots. They're kind of like prairie dogs, and they're in Colorado.
I thought a marmot was like a weasel.
No, they're like prairie dogs. They stand like prairie dogs and everything.
I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Wait, are marmots the ones that were in The Lion King?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, does not matter. The point is, apparently this is not set in Colorado. You've given me that much.
Right.
By saying it. So I'm going to assume that it's California.
Sure.
I mean, why not? I mean, because this is the 1980s. You know, that would make more sense if it was set in California, just because they would be like fending off a coastal invasion. I had this image that somehow the Russians had gotten like deep into the country, and that it was all like centering into like a mountain town in Colorado, and somehow these 5 kids are able to fight off the entire Russian army,
That
which
sounds
sounds like
ridiculous.
the most
That can't
sounds
happen.
like an insane idea. Like, that is like unbelievably dumb, and yet that's what I assume this movie is. Maybe it's not in Colorado, maybe it's in California, but that's what happens in this movie. They fight off the entire Russian army.
Wow.
What a dumb idea.
Huh?
So this movie, I know it's made by John Milius.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
Fun.
So, well, John Milius is interesting, at least. You know, is he a fascist? Yes. But he's at least interesting.
And I can only picture him as John Goodman.
No, that's all I can picture is John Goodman, actually. For those who don't know, Walter Sobchak in The Big Lebowski is modeled after John Milius.
Yeah.
Now, Milius, he wrote and directed Conan the Barbarian, which rocks.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out of the same community that some of the better known movie brats come out of, right? So, as far as I know, he worked with Lucas early on.
Was he part of like those 5 guys tearing apart Star Wars when he first showed it?
I don't know, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
because, as I said, look, the guy's a fascist, but he understands how film works.
Yeah.
So that makes him a more interesting figure than somebody who's just a milquetoast liberal to me. You know, at least in terms of art.
Is there a director that you would say is a milquetoast liberal?
There are definitely people where I just roll my eyes at their politics because it's just kind of, oh, I know exactly who I'm thinking of. Rob Reiner.
Right.
But after a certain point in the very early 90s, something happened and it's just kind of garbage and like, I don't want to watch The American President. Get away from me. And so, like, yes, politically, would I rather deal with a Rob Reiner than a John Milius? Yes, obviously. There was a tweet going around the other day saying that conservatives can't make good art. And I really, that got my hackles up because I could immediately think of a bunch of people who make good art whose politics are abhorrent.
Yeah.
And I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that, Red Dawn's going to be good art. I'm sure it's going to be a fun movie. Oh man, I don't want to get off into a whole tangent about like my pessimistic views of human nature, but I think there's a reason why these things tend to be crowd pleasers. And why cinema turned away from more complex and nuanced looks at politics and ideas, and most people just want to watch big crowd-pleasing nonsense like Red Dawn.
Like, to me, I feel like the two big GOP tent poles are Ghostbusters and Caddyshack. I feel like both of them define what the GOP is.
You know what? That's not entirely wrong. But it's like a certain, like... Your idea of the GOP is rooted, though, in the 1980s and Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've gone so much further and strange on the social level.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say. Not on the economic, because it was always bad, but on the social level, they've gotten much worse. Because I can't, I'm
just saying, I could see how people would be like, well, what on earth do people see in this party or something? And I feel like just watch Ghostbusters and Caddyshack, and you'll see what people see.
I think there is something to the idea of why are these nerds pushing me around and telling me to not have fun? I'd much rather hang out with Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack.
Yeah.
And that I think that people, and you've said, in other places, you look at Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack and that's Trump.
Yeah.
And
especially Caddyshack and especially Back to School.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just reading a script from Trump.
I totally understand what you mean by that. I totally understand where that comes from. And so, like, I'm not surprised something like, Red Dawn is a super popular film, even though, it's my impression is it's, absurd and jingoistic and, essentially child soldiers. But Americans love the idea of we're the little guy who gets one over on somebody who is menacing us.
Yeah.
Even if we have to completely, create an insane scenario in which to make that be the case.
Insane?
It's insane.
It could happen.
It definitely can't. Russia's never going to invade the United States. They won't. Not even an Aleutian Island, because it's a stupid idea. That's the thing. So this comes out in 84, 85?
Yeah, around the same time as the Axis and Allies board game. Thank you very much.
Here's the thing. You're the perfect age for this movie when this came out. Did you guys go see this?
I actually didn't see this. I saw it on cable, just parts of it. I'm like, I don't know. Swayze, I don't care. I had a kind of anti-Swayze thing, I guess, in my teenage years. I was like,
he's too pretty.
He's too pretty. This ain't sci-fi.
Oh, that's probably a big part of it, too. Although, when you think about it, this is definitely science fiction. I mean, come on.
It could happen.
No, I literally just said it can't.
You don't even know what's happening.
The Soviet Union. Look, I know enough about the premise, or damn it, you're right. I've not seen this. I'm guessing.
The East Germans attack Rhode Island.
They can have Rhode Island. Nobody wants Rhode Island.
Hey.
Look, I want to see the East Germans go up against the Rhode Island Mafia. This is going to be, it's ridiculous, but it's going to be entertaining, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, after last week, I kind of need that.
Yeah.
I kind of need something stupid. And this movie looks stupid.
Last week, that was not entertaining.
It was edifying.
I mean, it's well made. Certainly made its point.
It's instructive.
But I feel like it does not count as entertainment because it's it really beats you over the head after a while.
Well, Dennis, it's about nuclear war.
Yeah, it should be fun though.
Well, now you get to have your fun. You
Yeah.
get to beat up some Russians.
Get some realistic stuff.
Uh-huh. Do you got any questions before we wrap up?
Oh, love triangle.
Love triangle. No.
You don't know?
Come on. I don't assume there's a woman in this.
Do you think that one of the guys falls in love with a Russian soldier girl?
That would be pretty great, actually. Yeah, I want that to happen.
You know-
I don't think it will.
You know, like Spies Like Us.
Oh, God. Yeah, sorry, folks. We won't get to do Spies Like Us because Dennis did show that to me fairly early in our relationship, and yet we are still together.
I knew it was bad too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. You admit it. You finally admit it. Spies Like Us is for people who thought, Stripes, that's too sophisticated. All right, well, let's go watch a movie that is probably not bad, even if it's really stupid.
Yeah.
Wolverines!
All right, so we had talked about how John Milius inspired Walter in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
I feel like I just had Donnie's ashes thrown in my face.
Jeez! I mean, look, the movie's not good, but whew.
I've been waiting almost 40 years to see this movie. Like,
That's true, yeah.
Everyone in school talked about it. It was like, oh, everyone liked these, hot young actors, and they're all fighting for America,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And we finally watch it, and it sucks.
It's really not good, is it?
It's terrible. And I said it right away. It was like 15 minutes in. I'm like, does this suck?
I can't imagine why this is at all iconic among Gen Xers. I mean, look, I'm not saying your generation sucks, but... and also, we're going to just elide the fact that I was born in 79 at the end of that generation. So, I'm an elder millennial now.
I think it's more that,
You guys are all weird anti-communists?
No. I think it's more that what's his name was kind of riding a high.
Patrick Swayze?
Yeah, Swayze was
Okay.
kind of on a high, and I think this movie lives off of other movies.
Oh, that's interesting. Go
Yeah.
on.
No, because this was after Outsiders. I
Yes, yeah,
guess. But before Dirty Dancing.
definitely.
So it was just kind of.
In that same,
Yeah.
grouping of people. Yeah, there are a
It
couple
was
people.
all Swayze haze.
I feel bad for Patrick Swayze because before this, he was batting 1,000.
Yeah.
Roadhouse is, I'm not going to say it's good, but
It's
it is.
good.
It's a delightful piece of junk.
Yeah.
I love
That
Roadhouse.
counts as good.
Look, guys, if you have not listened to our episode on Roadhouse, it's one of our first episodes. I think it's episode 5 or something. And it is a blast of a movie. It is stupid and fun. More recently, over the summer, we watched Point Break.
Yeah.
Loved it. I've seen The Outsiders, and The Outsiders is a good movie.
Yeah.
Okay, now, granted, what my sister showed me was the uncut version, so I have no idea what this theatrical cut was. But I like The Outsiders.
Yeah.
This movie sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I really don't like it. And it's funny because it's not because of the politics of it.
Yeah.
Although I find the politics really dumb and really funny.
Well, I did find, I was on IMDb, and for some reason, I got onto, comments.
Oh, God.
And
No,
it
why
was,
why do that?
It was nothing but 7 out of 10 comment. Everybody rated it 7 out of 10, and it said, liberals are talking about how the characters were thinly created, blah, blah, blah.
But they're very thinly created.
They
Look,
were.
here's the thing.
They hung up on technical stuff, where did they get their ammo? And where do they get their ammo?
Well, yeah, actually, that's a pretty good question.
Where do they get those cool white
Outfits?
overcoat things
Yeah.
in the snow?
Look, I can accept that maybe they're stealing ammo
Yeah.
from the Russians and
Yeah,
Cubans.
they're
That's
getting
fine.
armored columns and just taking,
That's fine. I don't, once you get past a certain point in this film, you just kind of accept that this is the world that we're in. And I really don't have a problem with, where are they getting their ammo after a certain point. But the characters are very thin.
Yeah.
My He-Man figures had more character development when I played with them. Like, there's nothing there.
It's okay if you have like thin characters in the background and stuff, but
Yes.
when they're like part of your main group and always part of the plot, there's like 3 guys in this thing that we kept forgetting who was who.
I couldn't even tell you whose name was what.
Yeah, like someone gets killed and it's like, was that this guy? Was that, I don't know.
And that's the thing. Like, do I agree with the politics of this film? No, come on, man. It's dumb. But look, I will watch films where I love Westerns.
Yeah.
I love to watch a Western. Oh, but Westerns are, inherently, this white supremacist, imperialist, settler colonialist enterprise of justifying the genocide of the native population of what we call North America.
Yeah.
And yet, John Ford is one of my favorite directors. I mean, to be fair, he's a lot more nuanced than most of them.
Right.
He's actually he actually put some thought into what he was doing. But like, I will sit and watch a Western. It's very easy. When you watch a good Western, they are real characters. You can't watch The Searchers and tell me like that Ethan, the John Wayne character, is not a real character. We know who he is. We understand him. Is he a bad person? Yes, that's why it's a complicated film. But it's a great movie. Again, I'm reaching back to John Ford, but like Stagecoach is a great movie. Everybody in that is an individual. You know that John Carradine is this Southern aristocrat gambler and a lowlife. And you can know that Thomas Mitchell is the drunken doctor. John Wayne is he's a cowboy who's kind of on the outs with society. And you know who, and I can't remember the actress who plays the sex worker. You know who these people are. I don't know who any of these characters are. I don't know who anybody in this stupid movie is, except for Powers Boothe.
And there's Jed and there's Tony.
Who is okay? Is Jed? No, Jed is Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Okay, who's Tony?
And Tony was one of the girls in the.
Is that her name? Because
in
I don't
the
remember the
hole.
girls having names at all.
No, they definitely said Tony, and then I think she's the one that got shot, and she was written down on the rock.
Well, so is that Jennifer Grey? Or is that...
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's Leah Thompson who survives and goes into...
Feral Leah Thompson.
Boy, she's probably my favorite thing in this movie. Because there are times... Right. There are times where I felt like, oh man, she could eat somebody's face.
I kind of wish she didn't have any lines. I kind of wish she just growled the whole time.
That would be so much better. There is a scene of her gripping what I think is an orange, and she's going to town on it like a dog, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what this movie needs, is more of that.
Yeah.
Children who have gone insane and feral. But this movie doesn't do enough of that, while at the same time giving us 2 hours of child soldiers.
Yeah.
Like, how do you be this mannered? This is the guy who made Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing.
What happened?
That's a very good question. It sounds like some of it was definitely studio meddling.
Yeah.
Because the ending of this sucks. And it just kind of stops as a film. And that sounds like that was partially the studio. But it also sounds like, they ran this through test audiences and they liked this and they didn't like that. And some of the things they didn't like, I agree with. We'll get into that. But there was also, they didn't like the ending, which was apparently a downer of an ending. So they come up with that voiceover at the end that was like, okay, but in the end we won, even though you don't get to see it. And it's like, you can't trust test audiences. If you're going to be an artist, you just got to make the thing that you're going to make and put it out there. Now, yeah, granted, we live in a capitalist society, so then when movies fail, that's a problem. People aren't going to give you money again. But as an artist, I'm just like, no, man, just put out there what you really want to see. On the other hand, if what John Milius wants to see is the Muppet Babies Mujahideen of Colorado, is this something America needs? Probably not. And I do wonder to what extent this movie shaped guys who are now your age and in office. I don't know. I'm just thinking about like Ron DeSantis and dummies like that. And how many of them watched this movie and thought, yeah, that's me. And that's all those idiots who are joining like militia groups and doing like January 6th and storming the Capitol. I'm telling you, you can trace a line from this stupid movie back to Donald Trump and trying to like overthrow the government 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And yet, I don't dislike John Milius. I mean, he wrote Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I love Apocalypse Now. Now, he doesn't like what Coppola did with it, but whatever, who cares? He had a hand in Jaws.
Wait, Gen X rocks.
No, Gen
Jarts.
X sucks.
We had jarts.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
You know what? You didn't have enough jarts because there's too many of yous.
Sorry, it took me a while to respond.
Because you're
I
old?
had to stand up from my generation. I was looking through my notes, and then I realized what you were saying.
And I regret none of it.
We had Tonka trucks. Tonka trucks.
Oh, I had Tonka trucks, too. They still had them in the 80s.
We hit them in each other's faces.
Well, that doesn't really speak well of your generation, to be honest. This might be why you're all brain damaged.
It was a great time.
It was not. This movie starts abruptly, and I think that's one of the problems with this film. You know, last week we watched The Day After, and there's like 45 minutes of us getting to know the different people and like the lives that they're living, right?
Pretty awesome.
It's great. It's actually extremely well done, so that you know who Jason Robards' character is. You know who John Cullum's character is. You know who all the you know who these people are. You know who Jo Beth Williams is.
Yeah.
You get a sense of who they are as people.
You get invested in this motorcycles guy's life, and he dies.
He dies, right?
And we don't even know, we're even sure if he's dead until it's painfully obvious. Oh yeah, he's dead.
Right. Now compare that with this movie. You are in this film for about 30 seconds, and suddenly there are paratroopers shooting out of the sky, and they kill the history teacher.
Yeah.
We are given no time to know who any of these characters are. You get like 5 seconds of Patrick Swayze dropping his brother off at the high school.
Complaining about like a football team losing or something.
Right. It's the most anodyne conversation you've ever heard in your life.
I think it'd be fine if it opened with just the paratroopers, but before then is the history of how this has got.
This is so dumb. Yeah, there is an opening scrawl.
Yeah.
You know where there's a great opening scrawl? Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars just drops you in. Hey, the Empire's doing blah blah blah. Fine.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. You know what else is a perfectly fine opening scrawl? The Running Man. It just gives you kind of like it's the year 1997 or whatever, and 2017,
right? And
people are killing each other on television. That's great. This opening scrawl is the most paranoid nonsense I've ever read. Because it's
like Alex Jones.
It is total Alex Jones nonsense.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union, blah blah blah. Nicaragua, like South America, is all become communist. Mexico is in the middle of a revolution. The Soviet Union has invaded Germany. That's always the refrain, actually, with a lot of these films in the 80s. So I guess this was a real fear at the time. You say, yeah, but I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Germany, man.
NATO dissolves. Like, there's just a note that NATO dissolves. And I'm just like, I'm looking at the world right now as, Russia is fighting a war in Ukraine, and there's all sorts of tensions in NATO. Like, Turkey. Can you rely on Turkey? I don't know. Turkey's kind of its own thing. Like, why is it even in NATO? Because they're mad at the Russians because of the Black Sea. And you can debate whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't really care about that part in terms of the movie. But then all of a sudden they're just like, well, NATO has dissolved. It's just like, NATO's not just going to dissolve out of nowhere just because of the Soviet Union invading Russia. Like, that's not a thing. But it's convenient for this movie because it's like America stands alone. Now, I've seen an opening like this before, but it's a much better done opening, and I'll tell you why. Okay.
What's this?
Okay, so I've seen this sort of opening of the world is in chaos, and we are the last standing nation, but we're all on our own entirely. Children of Men opens kind of like this.
Okay.
Not entirely opening, but there's like early in the film. Like I've been thinking about the movie Children of Men a lot lately. I don't know, maybe because our world kind of looks like that right now. But minus the infertility. But
and you were trying to remember, like, why did I like Clive Owen after watching King Arthur?
Well, that's true. Oh my God,
I liked him, right? There was a reason, right?
I know. Yeah, I know. I had to like remember that. Oh, that's right. Children of Men is a great movie.
Yeah.
But Children of Men opens with a scrawl of, the world is in chaos, and it's like all these like, fast moving clips, and like only Britain soldiers on. But in that film, it's obviously a bit of like jingoistic propaganda. The UK is not soldiering on.
Like Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it's much more like Starship Troopers, actually.
Someday you'll watch that again.
Yeah, I will, and I will understand it this time. Because when I saw it at the time, I was a dummy. And no, I will readily admit that I did not understand Starship Troopers when I saw it. But in this movie, like, they mean it sincerely. this opening scroll of, the world is falling apart and our southern border is in chaos. What gets me though, by the way, is they never mentioned Canada.
Do you want to hear a quote just to illustrate this?
Yeah.
Infiltrators came up illegal from Mexico. Cubans mostly.
Really?
That's what Colonel Andy Tanner says when he's describing how it happened.
Cubans mostly.
Illegals.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
Illegals. That's such like right wing.
Yeah.
Not. Oh God, I hate this.
Yeah, Cubans just going to Mexico to come up here to invade.
Well, but here's what sucks. Like, that is literally the rhetoric you see right now on like Fox News.
Yeah.
I really wonder how much this movie poisoned people's brains, because I don't feel like people talked about immigrants this way 40 years ago until this movie. Like, not that there wasn't ever tension. There absolutely was. And you can go back and you can look at times that we have, as a nation, expelled people who were Latino, usually of Mexican heritage. There's Operation, it's an offensive term, Operation Wetback, back in like the 50s, where they threw out a bunch of people who were like just workers. They were just workers. And you go back even further than that, and there wasn't a border, and you could go back and forth. But in this, it's the idea that like, oh, we have these illegals kind of sneaking into the country. That's kind of how it all happened, and they're coming up through the border because Mexico is in chaos. And I'm just so mad watching this movie. It's incompetent. Yeah. It's just not really nicely. It's badly edited, and the story doesn't work very well. None of the characters are fleshed out. So I'm offended on that level. The politics of it make me angry. But I can live with a movie whose politics make me angry, but at least is good.
Right.
Okay? Like, I think Brideshead Revisited is a beautiful piece of art that has terrible politics. And I really disagree with it. But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right? I love the poetry of T.S. Eliot. I think he's amazing.
You love Downton Abbey.
I love Downton Abbey. Yes. It's like, that's a terrible thing, but it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's not that I can't appreciate reactionary art. I don't like it when it's bad.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's weird watching this and just going, there are talking points that are circulating now and making real human beings' lives miserable that are in this film. And that's really disturbing. Knowing that this film is very popular amongst Gen X, people who are now in positions of power.
Is it popular?
Dude, I've had this movie like thrown at me for years, and I just never got around to watching it because I was just like, I don't care about this. But like, I've definitely come across people go, do you know? I had people like, I mentioned this the other day on Twitter that I was watching this movie and it sucked, and I had people throwing gifs of me of Wolverines, and I'm like, why is this? Why?
I really wanted to like this. I was like, man, I can't wait to watch this movie. I kept hearing all this stuff about it, and it's like those Wolverine shots that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those from the commercials, and it's like, yeah, just raise your gun and yell out Wolverines. And when it happens in the movie, it's like, that was just thrown in.
It's nothing.
There's no build up to it. There's no even explanation. Like, other than that's the team.
That's their high school team name.
But like they don't decide to just say Wolverine. It's just something they do.
If they had gone into the woods and called themselves the Wolverines, I'd go. And then when he says it, that would be something. But they don't do that.
There's no backstory to any nothing.
Yeah,
like, there's no reason for anything happening here.
And that's what's so frustrating about this is like, you could make a good movie of this.
Mm-hmm.
You could okay, let's accept a really absurd premise, because the premise of this film, and I really hate this premise,
is that millions of Cubans are coming in to take over the United States.
Well, not just Cubans, there are also a bunch of Russians.
But like, the Russians are barely pointed out and like, they barely have speaking roles. It's like, it's mostly Cuban in the beginning.
And that's so weird to me.
It's like
Cuba doesn't want to invade us.
Why are you sending all these Cubans to Colorado?
But that's the other thing. So like, first of all, you had tried to warn me off that it was Colorado. Like, I don't know if you thought like,
for some reason I was so convinced that it was Kansas. I was like, why not make it Kansas? And
because the movie we just watched was Kansas.
Yeah, and that's probably it.
Yeah.
And I guess I forgot how little I knew about this film. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh,
And I don't know where I picked up the Colorado thing from, but like obviously it's just something that filtered in through pop culture.
Yeah.
The idea that all of a sudden you're going to have these paratroopers fly in to Colorado. Most of our listeners are American, not all of them, but most of them. But I think everybody kind of has an idea that the United States stretches from one coast to the other of a continent. We're a really big country.
Yeah.
We're up there in terms of square miles and population. We are, I think, third in world population and maybe third in area, although Brazil is pretty close.
Yeah.
But we're really big. And what's nice is we've got oceans on both sides. And we've got Canada to the north. Look, Canada is an extremely friendly country. And Mexico is a very complicated relationship.
Yeah.
The United States is physically isolated for the most part. You can't get to us very easily. You have to understand, Colorado is like hundreds of miles inland, maybe 1,000 miles inland. It's really far in.
But really important football teams are there.
No, screw the Broncos. Like, what? No. What, high school football?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The Wolverines, obviously.
Yeah, man.
But, like, you have to understand just how deep inland.
And apparently this was originally supposed to be Michigan, and that's why it's
even-
Wolverines.
Oh, okay. So that actually kind of makes more sense just in terms of, like, Wolverines. But,
Yeah.
Again, if it's Michigan, where in the world are you coming from? Canada has not fallen. Canada is not.
St. Lawrence Seaway, man. Anybody can go down
Look,
there.
I'm sorry, but like I'm just reeling at this idea of we have people parachuting into the United States and like not into California or Oregon or whatever, where at least I'd be like, okay, fine, that's an invasion. People feared that in World War II. You know, there are stories of U-boats off of Atlantic City. I get that part, okay? Is it realistic? No. Because again, we're like the third most populous country in the world. It's like China, India, or India, China, and then us. All right? We have a lot of people in this country. We're a very big country. We've got oceans on two sides of us. We've got a very friendly neighbor to the north and a non-hostile power to the south. Nobody's getting in. Nobody's invading. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Will there be terrorist incidents? Yes. That has happened. Will there be like insurrection in the country?
Are you
Absolutely.
saying Harry Dean Stanton prepared these kids for nothing?
Yes, I am. Premise of this film makes no sense whatsoever, and it really bothers me because it's a paranoid fantasy. You know, part of this movie is modeled on World War II.
Yeah.
Okay, because they've got references to like the French resistance with like the radios and stuff. And then they've got, somebody on Twitter mentioned that this was similar to a film called, I guess, The North Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, The North Star, which was about the Nazis invading Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But Europe is a bunch of little countries who don't all speak the same language, and they're all jammed up against each other, and they've been fighting each other for 2,000 years, 3,000 years, whatever. That's not the United States. We are so different from Europe. We are so completely different in a lot of different ways, but one reason is because we've got nobody around us. The premise of this film is so stupid. Russia's never going to invade us. And not because they wouldn't want to like get rid of us, but because it's just not a feasible thing. Nobody.
There are hundreds of millions of Cubans that want to kill us.
There isn't. There has never like Cubans don't want to invade.
I saw this movie. I saw them. Man, they're mad.
Well, they should be because we've had this blockade for like 70 years, and for what stupid reason? It's a dumb 60 years, whatever. We should not have there should never have been a blockade of Cuba. You know, once the Cuban Missile Crisis was over, that they should I can't get over the fact that we had, perestroika and glasnost and all that, and we had, the panda diplomacy and like all this stuff, and we still can't talk to Cuba. What? I still don't get this. It is so like, I'm sorry, but whatever voting bloc lives in Miami is not worth the stance that we have with Cuba. This is one of the stupidest decisions in American foreign policy that I've ever come across. Anyway, the idea that Cuba is behind an invasion of the United States of America, but that they parachute into Colorado, which again, I'm just saying, it's 1,000 miles inland. Somebody would have shot them down. if the film wants us to accept that this is happening, then they have to like set up some sort of premise of compromise in Washington, or, you know, there's no air traffic controllers. They've all been drugged out and shot because they went on strike. Give me something to hang a hat on here. But there's no reason to understand. Like,
You know what? I would feel better if there was no history at all. If they didn't even say why this was happening. And but they keep trying to like come up with like a real world. Like I would almost be okay if it just started with the paratroopers coming down. They're speaking different languages. We're fighting. We don't even know why.
if this movie was nothing but chaos, at least I would respect it. But it's not.
No.
Because it tries to give us grounding, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, like all the exposition scenes. Any scene with like the enemy, it's just them sneering, being bad guys. They're just like Imperials in Star Wars.
They're just vaguely bad guys who are here to overthrow the United States.
Except for the head Cuban guy who's like, I don't like it.
Yeah, I know. He's like kind of the noble bad guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like, I appreciate that kind of a character. I actually kind of like it when a movie has that kind of character. But there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And like I said, when this movie starts, give us at least a couple of minutes to understand who these different kids are and why they're different from each other. Because otherwise, I know Patrick Swayze just because he looks like Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
But then there's a bunch of like just random...
Well, there's Charlie Sheen, who's his brother.
Charlie Sheen is so young here. He doesn't even look like Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, it's like also C. Thomas Howell.
Like, you can't tell the difference between Charlie Sheen and C. Thomas Howell in this movie.
Like, only if there's like a close up and it's like, oh, that's Charlie Sheen. Because he's
Maybe
scowling in the right way.
So the film starts with Patrick Swayze dropping his brother and a buddy off at school. And immediately, all of a sudden, you've got these communists parachuting out of the sky and shooting up the school. And I'm sorry, but we already have people to do that here. This is America. We have our own homegrown school shooters.
Yeah.
So now, all of a sudden, the teacher is dead.
Oh,
And
they're also firing rockets into the school. There's that one shot right down the hallway.
I mean, look, I don't want to take tests either, but that seems a little extreme. So next thing you know, the kids all are escaping, and they find Patrick Swayze, who, I mean, is he not in school anymore? I guess that's the idea. It's kind of vague.
I think he was a school quarterback or something.
But now he's graduated
Yeah.
or something.
And so he's driving a truck, and they have like the student president. And
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. Like, who these kids are is so vague.
Part of the problem is that they spend most of the movie in fatigues, so you can't even see their faces. Like their hair is covered up, and like the only person you can tell is Leah Thompson.
They run off to like a hunting store. I mean, it's kind of a truck stop, but it's like one of those truck stops that you go to when you're going to go out into the woods.
And was that like a family member of that guy?
Yeah, they didn't explain who that guy was.
I thought that was the dad, but then,
Well, that's the thing. At first, I thought that was their dad, too, because all of a sudden they're at, this kind of truck stop, and they're grabbing guns and soup cans and
a football.
Whatever they thought they needed to survive up in the mountains. We're people who go camping.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Milius is somebody who obviously I saw like a quote from, I think it was Spielberg maybe, who said that he was like the scoutmaster of New Hollywood and would say, let's go out into the woods and, teach you bushcraft and stuff like that. And like, I'm somebody who like is inclined towards that.
Yeah.
Like, I love all that stuff, but I also don't think it's going to keep me alive in case of a communist invasion. I'm good for like a week tops.
Well, you're not the Swayze.
I'm definitely not the Swayze. They're going up into the woods, and they are teaching themselves hunting and how to go in camouflage. So you have them with like, pine branches on their heads and stuff. And there is a scene where is it C. Thomas Howell who has to drink the deer blood?
I think so.
Yeah. So they have a whole little hunting ritual, and my mother was gagging, and like, do I want to drink deer blood? No. But do I appreciate this as like we're going like full hunter-gatherer, like, nonsense, which is a very 20th century.
I feel like there's a scene like that in Oh, Hunger Games?
I do wonder what the influence of Red Dawn was on Hunger Games, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole idea of teenage warriors. I haven't seen Battle Royale, but it's the same sort of thing in that way. They decide to go back into town after they've been out in the woods for a while, months even. I know they grab some soup cans, but they're up there a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, at some point they're going to end up with rickets.
And
because I don't think they're getting any vitamin C.
They just walk into town.
That's the
They
thing.
just walk by checkpoints and everything, and it's just like these are the worst guards on the planet.
Like, are these communists incompetent because it's the film demands it of them, or because like that's what they actually think the communists wouldn't be smart enough to have checkpoints? I'm so confused as to what they actually think the power of these people are.
Because like the first person they talk to is this woman in this like store, and it's like, of course, it's this bare store because capitalism has been removed, so it's boring. There's a guard over them, and she says they're looking for you, and it's like, who? Like they're not here, I guess.
Oh, there was one guy like on the second floor who had a gun or
I know,
something.
but
he's
obviously
not even
doesn't have their descriptions or anything because they just walked into town and then walk out.
Right, that's the thing. Like they're able to like wander perfectly free. I don't see what the feared communist takeover if they're just wandering around town and nobody's bothering them. They find out that Dad is at a re-education camp. And again, they're able to just walk up to the re-education camp and see them on the other side of like the cyclone fence.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? There are guards, right? Are there guards? Like, why are you able to just walk up to these people and talk to them? Why are you not being arrested? Like, everything is so convenient for them. It makes no sense whatsoever. But this is where you get that scene of Harry Dean Stanton. He's in one scene, and this is it. And he gets to have this little speech about how, yeah, I know I wasn't like a great dad to you, and I was really tough on you guys. I was really hard on you guys. But you know what? That this is okay is because, look, you've survived.
Yeah, he says, now you know why.
Now you know why I was so horrible of a dad to you guys is because I was training you for an anti-communist uprising.
Yeah.
I believe that there are men out there who actually believe this.
Yeah.
And I believe that there are guys who are now your age who trained their sons in that way.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, like, it's Harry Dean Stanton, so like he's not acting badly here. Like he's certainly effective with what he's given.
Yeah.
But like again, he's a paper doll of a character. Like there's nothing there. He's emoting, but I don't know who this guy is. And then you get to the end of his whole speech, and it's just him screaming, "Avenge me!"
Yeah.
And I actually started laughing because it's so over the top.
And it's just not earned. Like we don't know anything about his character and his relationship to his kids.
Hey man, for all I know, if he was that abusive of a parent, maybe he should be in a re-education camp. That's the thing. Like we have our own version of this nonsense.
Yeah.
We have conversion therapy. We have like these like but I'm a cheerleader.
Yeah.
This stuff exists in this country. Don't give me this, the communists will put you in a re-education camp. It's called Bible school. Anyway. Then like they start a guerrilla movement. And so now you've got another like hour and a half of child soldiers, and they get real good at killing people. Yeah, by this time, 2 girls have joined our little band.
Oh,
and
yeah, sorry.
we didn't even I'm trying to remember how they ended up joining either.
The house. The comfy house, the Rivendell of the
That's what I was sitting there like watching this. I'm like, what does this remind me of? And it's Ben Johnson and his wife in this. Essentially, the Elrond of Colorado.
Yeah, comfortably living in a house in the middle of nothing.
They get to have Christmas. I mean, my God. I would lay you odds that their life is not that radically different from before the communists took over because they're out living in the middle of the mountains.
Yeah. Commies have helicopters and stuff. You haven't noticed this house with smoke coming out and like happy people dancing around it?
Right, exactly. Like, why have they not come under any surveillance?
This is so weird. They have 2 heirlooms that they want to bestow upon the men, and it's women in the basement.
God, the way this is worded just put a chill down my spine. Now these teenage boys have 2 girls join their band. Yeah. At least as far as this movie goes, there's never any weird sex stuff. In fact, it's almost like weirdly sexless.
Yeah.
To the point where there was something that was taken out of the film. Because a little bit later in the film, they come across some actual U.S. Army guys, led by Powers Boothe.
Oh, just him. Remember, he was a
Well,
pilot.
I know he was a pilot, but then like they end up falling in with some other dudes too.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe I filled that in because otherwise, like, this movie didn't make any sense. Because I'm like, why are these guys able to do these tactics? You know?
His plane crashes.
Yeah.
And he's discovered by Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
He's the one that tells them like how things went down and all that.
Right. But I could have sworn later in the film they have more backup.
Well, he says there's going to be more backup, but I don't think it ever comes.
So yeah, we have two girls introduced. One is Jennifer Grey, and the other is Leah Thompson. Jennifer Grey, obvious that there's supposed to be something between her and Patrick Swayze, but this is not that movie. No, the actual movie where there's something between them is much better. It's actually a very charming film. Dirty Dancing, if you haven't seen it, I like it.
It's not even Johnny Utah and Boothe.
No, it's not. Like, there's obviously supposed to be something between them, but it's just not evident on screen. And then the other girl is played by Leah Thompson, and there is a weird attempt at some sort of romance between her and Powers Boothe, the downed airman.
And the thing is, you can feel it building. Yeah. Like, you know, cinematically, you see she keeps like putting a flower on him and that kind of thing. And she talks about his wife or something. And then suddenly,
yep, they just cut it. They cut it. This is a film that does feel like it's been cut to ribbons because it just feels like there's whole scenes missing. I'm glad that scene's missing. I don't want to see that. There are a lot of little battle scenes in this to the point where it got kind of mind-numbing, to be honest. And I don't get the feeling that this is a film where you want to feel that kind of numbness. You know, like, this is not intentional on the part of the filmmaker. But so, yeah.
See, I'm sure that these battle scenes are the ones that the people that like this movie like it for.
That yes. Yeah. They think this part's great.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I'm like, honestly, I'm kind of bored. I mean, there's a lot of explosions in this, and like the explosions are fine.
Like,
but...
to me, it reminds me a lot of this video game called Russian Attack, which maybe is based on this movie for all I know. That's just like one guy, and he goes into like a Russian compound, and he laying down and stabbing him in the feet, and and eventually gets a gun and is shooting him in the face. It feels like a video game. It's just them killing Russians and Cubans, and
a kind of a monotonous film.
Yeah.
We do get like some scenes of the communists and what they're doing, but it never really feels developed.
And it's not like we're anti-violence.
Oh God, I love violence in film.
We love Predator. We love John Wick.
Yeah,
we love this kind
it
of
rocks.
Thing. And it's just not here. It's just, ugh.
I don't know. This is not interesting. It's not stylish. Even the explosions are kind of meh.
But they're real.
It's
just gasoline just blown up.
Yeah. Not much else happens in this film. There's just a lot of fighting. Most of the kids get killed. Powers Boothe gets killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, I guess, Patrick Swayze and Leah Thompson make it to the border?
No.
It's not even Patrick Swayze. Who is it?
Patrick Swayze and his brother.
They both get killed.
Yeah, they both get killed. They just make one big last attack on the town where all the important Russians and Cubans are.
Sure.
Pedro Pascal Russian.
He does kind of look like, yeah.
Yeah, he's the hunter, and he's the big bad.
Yeah.
And he and Swayze shoot it out, and they both die, I guess.
So then who is it that takes Leah Thompson to the border? Do you remember?
Another brown-haired boy.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's just another brown-haired boy. I don't even know which guy that was. I don't know what actor. Everybody else is dead at this point.
There is one guy, I think his father's the mayor.
Yeah.
And he's kind of working with the Russians and stuff like that. And at some point he's captured, and they force feed him a bug that the Russians use to track them.
Yeah.
The thing is, that scene is not in this film.
Right.
Like,
if there was something where they just had a scene where this brown-haired boy had to swallow the bug, he had been captured. Like, give us just 2 minutes of something. Of a scene where like he's being held captive and he's
just any drama, just any,
where we're waiting for that moment where like it's revealed that they're being tracked. Nothing. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, okay, you betrayed us, and then they go out and shoot him.
Yeah.
there's nothing there. There's nothing there.
I mean, Swayze plays it pretty well.
No,
he won't shoot him, and then someone else shoots him.
There's nothing wrong with Swayze's performance in this at all. I'm talking about the storytelling. The storytelling is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, there's no drama.
There's just a lot of things that are said and not shown.
The end of the film is just Leah Thompson escaping over the border to free America.
With a brown boy.
Yeah, with some random guy. And then a voiceover. Basically saying, eventually the war was won and we were free. And, all these kids died, but it was totally worth it.
In Leah Thompson's defense, she appropriately looks like, I'm not going back. I'm a monster now.
There's nothing wrong with any of the acting in this. The story is awful. I don't mean politically. I mean, it's just told so badly.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating to watch and just be like, wait a minute, which guy is this? Who is that? And I'm not even going to get into the logic of, well, how'd they get all the ammunition? I don't care about that part. That's fine. Whatever. There's no personalities in this.
Right.
There's just nothing to hold on to. It's just 2 hours of like child killers. I don't know, man. Just, it did nothing for me. What like a year or two later is Rocky IV. Rocky IV is, the same sort of weird American propaganda, right?
Yeah.
You've got, Rocky versus Ivan Drago. But that movie rocks.
That's proper propaganda.
That's good propaganda. Why? Well, for one thing, Stallone knows how to, like, develop a character.
Yeah.
Does it have Paulie and his weird robot wife? Yes. That's part of the film's charm.
R.I.P., by the way.
R.I.P. Burt Young. Look, Rocky IV, it's a weird, dumb movie, and I love that movie. This movie is also like communist propaganda, but this movie just kind of sucks.
Part of what works with all the Rockies is that they
everybody's likable.
Oh, everybody's likable. Also, editing wise,
yeah,
it just knows what to cut. Those montages, like you remember those montages, but like they don't feel. Like, they feel different than regular scenes. It doesn't feel like it's just stringing together. It feels like there's a purpose to the montage.
Yeah. This doesn't have that same vision. I don't know. Like, the way this is edited so poorly.
Yeah.
And it just feels like there's entire scenes missing. It's so unsatisfying. Like, politically, do I hate this film? Oh, yeah, obviously. This is terrible. This is garbage. But cinematically, it's just really badly done. There's so much better right-wing propaganda out there. I often think like Gone with the Wind is a morally abhorrent film, but it's really good filmmaking. Like, it's some of the best filmmaking you've ever seen. This sucks.
It almost makes me feel like that, like John Milius was looking at past Hollywood war films, and it's like, man, communists made all those films. I am going to take all their plots, I'm going to stick it in here, I'm going to make it right.
It doesn't work, man.
It doesn't work.
No.
And this is just, what, like 2 years after Conan?
Yeah.
Or something like that? 2 or 3? I don't know how many years. But Conan is great.
Conan rocks.
Yeah.
This doesn't.
I don't know what he lost. But it definitely feels like a Lucas type thing too, like where they kind of lost touch with how to direct.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's so weird watching this and just being like, I know Milius can write and I know he can direct, and this sucks. Yeah. And yet this was popular.
Yeah,
this was really popular, and it just makes me look at my fellow Americans and think, what is wrong with you people? So that was Red Dawn, starring Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell, Leah Thompson, Charlie Sheen, Darren Dalton, which
not that Darren
Dalton. I was very confused.
Ooh.
Yeah. Jennifer Grey is in this. Ben Johnson, Harry Dean Stanton.
Jennifer Grey does not leave much of an impression.
She really
not
doesn't.
As much as Leah Thompson.
I know, right?
But it feels like it's more his fault, like John Milius' fault for.
I agree.
There are girls here now.
Yeah. Powers Boothe, and finally, Vladek Scheibel.
Yay!
Yes, he plays the head evil Russian. But if you go all the way back to our episode on The Apple, he is Mr. Boogaloo.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was...
And he was fine. He was a fine, like, B actor type
absolutely.
bad guy.
There's nothing wrong with him in this film.
I will say the funniest movie probably we've seen was Ruthless People. That's 2 movies ago.
Yeah.
Probably the grimmest movie we've seen was The Day After so far.
Yeah.
That was last movie.
Yeah.
This is by far the most disappointing movie we've seen.
Oh, yeah.
And
Even more disappointing than Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin.
Okay, so it's tied.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I know we don't like tie games, but this is a tie game.
Yeah.
Both of them, because I really did want to see this.
Yeah.
And Metal Storm, I kind of knew probably not good. But
The prophecy was fulfilled.
Maybe not the title, but the prophecy was. But so among the disappointments is like Airman falls down, Leah Thompson turns him over, and I'm like looking like, who is that? And then my first thought is Michael Ironside. Michael Ironside will save this movie if anyone can. I mean, he was great in Total Recall.
Sure.
Yeah. He's always great.
He's in Top Gun.
He's in Top Gun.
Yeah.
And it's Powers Boothe. It's like even that let me down.
Yeah. Well, written and directed by John Milius, with some help from Kevin Reynolds.
Yeah.
And look,
apparently Spielberg and maybe Kevin Reynolds, like they originally wrote it as like an anti-war film.
yeah, that's the thing. This was originally supposed to be like anti-war and
Like
about
Lord of the Flies type of thing.
right, and like the horror of child soldiers, and that's not what it became.
The studio was like, no, we wanted to make a war film. We're going to have all these stars in it, and we're
Yeah.
going to have John Milius because, he loves this kind of stuff.
And even Milius, I think, was disappointed with
Yeah.
some of the direction of this.
Some of it. I think he's still proud of
Oh
it.
no, I think he was proud of the anti-communist part, but
Yeah.
I don't know that he liked. I know he didn't like the ending.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, you can follow us on social media. We're Mary vs. Movies on the following platforms: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Mastodon. It's mas.to. Blue Sky. What else? Threads. We're Mary vs. Movies. We're Mary vs. Movies basically everywhere except for Tumblr, where it's Mary versus the movies, because for some reason I could not get Mary vs. Movies. I don't even think there is like a Tumblr called Mary vs. Movies, but for some reason I couldn't get Mary. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. But otherwise, on all of the major social media platforms, we are there. So please follow us. We are available on all of the major platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. We really, please try to review the show. We're on Spotify, where you can also rate the show. We are on Google Play and Overcast, and whatever your podcatcher choice is, we are there. We are also on TikTok, where Dennis has been animating short clips of the show, and he does an amazing job. It is so cool.
Suggested by Alana.
Yes, frequent guest of the show, Alana Phelan, suggested that we should try to do a little bit of visual stuff, and Dennis has done a great job animating bits of the show. As far as Instagram goes, actually, if you are not following Bob Sellers, who is a patron of the show, he also does some really nice little
He does. Those are cool.
he does these great Instagram stories of our show, and so we want to do a shout out to Bob Sellers. He is Bob on there, UH_BOB, and I know, right? Because otherwise it just sounds like me stuttering. Yeah, but he does a wonderful little Instagram story of our episodes every week, and I love what he does. He is I really appreciate what he does for us.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all of you who are listening, because we always get like great shout outs from people who promote the show, and we really appreciate it. Everybody from Dan at Wheel of Randy to Andy Mascola and Rachel at Chart Chat, to the OG Tom Sharpling on The Best Show. Whenever I call in, he always mentions the show. So
Yeah, right away. It's pretty cool.
Which is just awesome. So
Nice guy.
yes, thank you everyone who listens to the show and promotes it. We really appreciate it. And if you're interested in more, we have a Patreon where you can help to support the show. We are patreon.com/MaryVSMovies, and you will not only help support the show for $3 a month, because the show actually does cost money to make, because we have a server and we've got a Zoom account, we've got all this other nonsense. And hopefully with the Zoom account, we'll start having some more guests soon. I mean, right now we're kind of in our busy period at work, but come the new year, we want to start having more guests on again. But if you sign up for the Patreon, you also get access to our second show, Hollywood Avalon, where we talk about movies that are in our theory and nature. And we just released our episode on the 2004 film King Arthur, which is a piece of garbage, and I hate it. So we talked about it for a whole hour, more than an hour, about how much I hate this movie. And I have been told that it is a very funny episode. So please sign up, because that movie sucks. But we've watched everything from that piece of garbage to movies that are great, like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, to movies that are not, old-fashioned, but I kind of like Knights of the Round Table. Did Arthur Was a Gentleman, a weird little British propaganda film. We did The Kid Who Would Be King, a kids film. What?
More fun than this.
Yeah.
Arthur Was a Gentleman.
Actually, no. Arthur Was a Gentleman was perfectly fine. Yeah. It's a World War II war propaganda film, but it was actually quite charming. To First Night, which actually just sucks. Yeah, I don't like First Night. But no, so we have that second podcast, and if you sign up to the Patreon, you will get access to that. And I think our next episode will be a series of Bugs Bunny cartoons, actually, that are Arthurian in nature. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. Next episode, it's going to be Thanksgiving when it comes out. And so I was Googling, what are Thanksgiving movies? So we've already done, the big planes, trains, and automobiles. Turns out, have you ever seen The Big Chill?
No.
Well, you're going to.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Thanksgiving. Apparently there might be like a Thanksgiving scene, or maybe it takes place over Thanksgiving weekend. I don't know. But when I looked up Thanksgiving movies, The Big Chill came up. That's kind of a big deal of a movie. I think it'll be interesting. Yeah, it's also like people coming home and it's Thanksgiving, and it's got the right feel. So that will be our next episode. I know it has an important soundtrack, and we will talk about that. But beyond that, I don't know.
Oh.
So next episode is going to be The Big Chill.
I can say I won't be as disappointed as this one.
Absolutely not.
At least that.
So until next time.
Boys, avenge me!